France Tour de Corse, where the tarmac stages are tight and twisty and unbelievably fast. Day one saw these dangerous roads claim a couple of unsuspecting victims, with both Matthew Wilson and Danny Sordo, showing that a small error can have massive consequences. Sordo's rally is well and truly over. Meanwhile, championship leader and tarmac supremo Sébastien Loeb showed once again why he's head and shoulders above the rest of the field. He won every one of yesterday's stages, and by the end of the day, he was just over 32 seconds ahead of his nearest rival. Having won 3 times previously on these roads, it perhaps shouldn't be a surprise that his precision and pace have blown away the rest of the contenders. Despite his dominance, he's still focused on today's stages.
I know one of the stages is from 2003, so it's nearly a new stage and very bumpy, and for the other one it's one long stage, maybe very hard for the tire with the end, very twisty end.
Well behind in second position is Mikko Hirvonen. Barring a disaster for Loeb, he knows that his chances of catching the Frenchman are small. His main task on day one was a battle for second with his teammate Francois Duval. He lies just over 2 seconds ahead of the Belgian, and he's determined to beat him fair and square this time.
Hopefully we don't have to end it like we did in Spain, and for sure tomorrow we're gonna go as fast as we can, so we're gonna have fun tomorrow.
Asphalt specialist Francois Duval will no doubt be looking to push his teammate to the limit. Team orders will not ultimately allow him to beat the Finn, but there is still pride at stake for these two. Besides, with Loeb setting a lightning pace, Duval knows that the task of catching the race leader is a fruitless one.
Sebastian is too far away. It's crazy. Every long stage, +1, +2, +3, 4, 5. It's quite a lot, but always Citroën is really fast on the tarmac rally.
In fourth position is the Norwegian Petter Solberg, locked in a battle with Lappala and Atkinson for much of yesterday. This should be an intriguing fight. A mere 4 seconds separates these 3 drivers. So as we take a look at the leaderboard, Loeb inevitably leads the way with Hirvonen and Duval tussling for second. The 2 Subarus and Lappala fight for fourth, with Gardemeister and Mikkelsen sitting in the remaining point-scoring places. The Rally de France takes place on the western coast of the Mediterranean island of Corsica. Rally HQ is based in the port area of Ajaccio. Today's stages run over 123 competitive kilometres. Today's rally begins under cloudless skies, with conditions expected to remain bright and sunny. There are 6 stages today to the north of Ajaccio, with the 3 morning speed tests repeated in the afternoon. These are classic Tour de Corse stages with narrow roads and constant cornering. 2 of the stages are over 20 kilometres long, and as Loeb just mentioned, stages 9 and 12, the 14-kilometre Apriciani, has not been used since 2003, so an unknown quantity for most of the drivers. Back out to the hills above Ajaccio then, and rally leader Sébastien Loeb is waiting on the start line to resume his devastating demolition of all comers. The Frenchman begins the second day with an advantage of over half a minute, and again there seems little chance of his closest rivals catching the world champion unless he hits an unexpected problem. On his home event, there are none better. The pace notes rattled off by co-driver Daniel Eleanor. Seb is as impressive as ever through this tight, twisty early section of this 22-kilometre stage. Mikko Hirvonen, meanwhile, seemed almost resigned to his fate on day one, as Loeb extended his lead with every passing stage.
Pitkä oikein hidas tiukka käännä. Vasen eri sisältä pidä. Oikea loiva. Heti lyhyt vasen eri ja lyhyt.
Mikko's main focus for now will be to stay ahead of his teammate Francois Duval.
Tiukka, kirraa vähän, pidä. Ja lyhyt vasen K. 8. Pitkä oikein nopea tiukka. Pidä. Ja vasen hidas menee. Huomio. Jatkuu vasen eri.
Lots of surface changes in this opening stage, with some sections of abrasive broken tarmac. It's incredibly bumpy and slippery at high speed, and with Duval now The Belgian seems in top form as he seeks to remind Hirvonen who is the tarmac expert. No matter what the Ford men come up with, though, there again seems nothing they can do to close up on Loeb. The driver from Alsace has again dominated the early split times. And looking at his telemetry, you'll get an idea how hard the drivers have to work. Constant gear changes and working the brakes very hard. Extremely slow and bumpy section here, as low as 44 kilometers an hour through there. Back up to fifth gear now, though, and up to 127 kilometers an hour. And then hard on the brakes as he tiptoes his way through the narrow streets of this sleepy Corsican village. It's exhilarating stuff from the world champion, and it's been another blisteringly quick getaway.
Sebastian, what are conditions like out there this morning?
It's okay. Road is not so... It's clean and a few humid places where you have to be a bit careful, but except of that, the sun is a bit strong in the morning, so sometimes you don't see very well. But except of that, conditions are very good.
Hirvonen was 5 seconds off Loeb's time in here and back with Duval. The Belgian could snatch second from his teammate. Clearly no sign of backing off from Francois. He could do this. Yes, the fight is back on for second. Duval edges past Hirvonen by 0.4 of a second.
Francois quicker than Hirvonen on that stage. I think you've taken second.
Yes, but I not take so much risk in the stages. It's quite really slippery, a lot of dust on the road, but it's quite okay.
Changes near the top of the leaderboard then, and there is still a three-way battle for fourth to be decided. Petter Solberg begins the day holding the position after a late charge on day one. There is just 4 seconds between the Norwegian Jari-Matti Latvala and Chris Atkinson, though.
+2 on Loeb, 6 left Oblong.
Incredible view from the front of Pettis in Pretzer here.
3 plus narrow, Oblong 20. Line to 6 left Oblong, tighten 5 Oblong. Into 6, right give in.
Latvala is getting back to his best after a mid-season slump that had severely dented the young Finn's confidence. He looked a little wild at times on day one and was clearly not afraid to attack. Jari-Matti is giving his all this morning, but looking at Pettis' time, he may struggle to beat him here. He's slower again, now almost 5 seconds behind the former world champion. Chris Atkinson, meanwhile, is still very much in the mix. The Australian has a chance to secure a top 3 finish in the Drivers' Championship, so every point counts at this late stage of the season. An overnight setup tweak hasn't worked for Chris, though, and he can't match his teammates' time. But he does edge closer to Latvala in this stage.
Then 5 right open.
Herman Arver has begun his fight back after his frustrating delay early on day one. The Estonian privateer is 7th fastest on this first run through Carbuccia, and it's enough to see him storm up from 10th to 7th. Former junior World Rally champion Brice Tirabassi is also moving in the right direction. The local star is clearly right on the limit, and Brice is back into the point-scoring places. Plenty of movement on the leaderboard after stage 7 then. Hirvonen and Duval have swapped places, while further back Arver and Tirabassi have edged Tony Gardemeister out of the top 8. No change up front though. Loeb now almost 37 seconds ahead. Loeb's lead continues to grow, but behind him, will the Ford boys continue to fight? Find out after the break. The second day of the 2008 Rally de France Tour de Corse is well underway. The crews are moving on to stage 8 with local star Sébastien Loeb leading the way, followed by the two works Fords. Mikko Hirvonen has just been passed by his teammate François Duval in the morning's opening stage, but here in the 25-kilometre Caukatoggio test, he has a real chance of getting back into second at the first time of asking.
5, oikea serpo takaviisto. Oikea K, 7, vasen hidas.
This is looking like a terrific time from Mikko. If he beats that target, he'll move ahead. Yes, he's back up to second, now 4 seconds up on Duval. Chris Atkinson, meanwhile, was over 7 seconds behind his teammate in 4th after stage 8.
8 left 30, tighten 7 minus extra long, rock opens. We drive the finish. Yeah.
And on stage 9, there's more bad news for the Australian. He picks up a puncture early in the test, and although it's only 14 kilometres long, it's a disaster for his hopes of staying in the fight for 4th. Looking at virtual spectator, you can see how tight it was between the three drivers fighting for 4th, but once Atkinson's slow puncture kicks in, struggling to keep the car on the road, his speed drops and he immediately falls away from his two rivals. Well over a minute is lost. It's become a two-horse race for 4th then, and although Solberg was up early in this stage, Latvala was only 0.7 of a second behind before the test. The time at the bottom of your screen is Latvala's target to beat to get back into 4th. Yes, another terrific drive from the 23-year-old. He's now ahead of Petter by 7.6 seconds. Loeb untroubled at the front, but plenty of jockeying for position behind. Hirvonen's back up to second, and Latvala makes it 3 Fords chasing the world champion with his move up to 4th. Further back, Suzuki's Tony Gardemeister is back up to 8th. The cars have travelled back to service in the port of Ajaccio, where, not for the first time this season, Malcolm Wilson has some tactical decisions to make.
Malcolm, a sensible decision would be to not let your drivers fight it out. Have you told them, have you given them any instructions? It seemed to be fighting.
Yeah, you're right. It would be very easy. Under normal circumstances, I think you would say, OK, fantastic results, second or third, good manufacturer's points. But being absolutely, realistic, that is not good enough for us to challenge for the drivers or the manufacturer's championship, for Ford to retain the manufacturer's crown. So the only way, and if we were to ease off now, that would mean that Sebastian would automatically ease off and he could literally just cruise round.
Petter, a steady pace from you this morning, but you have lost that 4th position.
Yeah, I have, and we tried something different with the car, and we thought it should be a little bit better, and it was in some areas, but it was worse in that area we are working with. So we just have to go back now and try the other way.
Yeah, it is a good battle. Atkinson was very close to battle as well, but I think he got some problems in stage 9 and lost some time. But yeah, still we have a quite good battle with Petter going on, so it's interesting afternoon coming up.
The warm weather continues into the afternoon, so it's going to be physically hard work for the drivers through these incessant corners as the crews move on to stage 10. It is, though, looking increasingly comfortable for Sébastien Loeb out front. Despite his dominance last week in Spain, the one aspect of the event he couldn't match was to win every single stage. Yet to be beaten in his home event, that is one record he could yet break. He'll have to keep pushing to do it, though, even through these small villages, as the Ford boys are generally within a few seconds of Seb on each stage. And according to Malcolm Wilson, there will be no team orders today, asking Hirvonen and Duval to ease off the pace. Their only real hope in the Drivers' Championship is to keep what pressure they can on Loeb in the unlikely event they force him into an uncharacteristic error. No sign of it yet, though. Hirvonen is another few seconds slower than Seb in stage 10. That was another strong time from Mikko, though. No sign of backing off. Ford are not giving up on these championships without a fight. Looks like Duval's got a problem in this stage, though. A sluggish launch control delayed him at the start there. And through the last sector, the Belgians had some gear selection delays too. Somehow, he's only a couple of seconds slower than his teammate.
On the start line, the launch is not working. I lost some 2 seconds on the start line, but I lost as well on the last kilometer. The gear change is not working. I stay on the neutral for 1 or 2 seconds. I don't know why.
Further back, Peter Solberg is working hard to repass Jari-Matti Latvala after losing his position in the previous test.
6 left, opens. Repeating, 6 left, opens 100. 6 left plus. Into 6
Norwegian is suffering with a bit of understeer through some of the slippery sections in here, though, and he may struggle to match a fired-up Latvala. It's still incredibly brave driving, with that steep drop just inches away on the left of the road.
4 left minus how long you've been. And 5 to 3 right.
Latvala is clearly relishing this battle. The Finn is driving right on the limit, and at times a little over it. It's a cracking time in here for Latvala, though. His third fastest on stage, his best performance yet in Corsica this year, and pulls another 3.5 seconds away from Solberg.
Jari, you've had a look at the times. Happy with it?
Yeah, I'm surprised that it was a quite good time. I cannot understand how we did that good time, but obviously we did a better job now this morning. Now afternoon what we did in the morning.
After his frustrating puncture in the previous stage, meanwhile, Atkinson has been left in a rather lonely 6th position.
3 left plus, and 3 right.
Little to gain now from pushing hard. The Australian will just concentrate on keeping Ermo Ava at arm's length. Were it not for the Estonians' 1-minute time penalty on day 1, Ermo may have had a real go at making up the time on Atkinson. As it is, though, he's over 1 minute and 20 away from 6th place. Andreas Mikkelsen rarely has a quiet rally. The young Norwegian is undoubtedly talented, but he is still prone to the odd moments of madness. And another wild ride through a taped-off corner there for Andreas. He survives that, but is unlikely to improve on 13th today. No changes in the top 8 after stage 10. Loeb's lead is up to 45 seconds, with Duval now 4.3 behind Kievanen. In the battle for 4th, Solberg is now just over 6 seconds away from Latvala. It's been an error-free day for Loeb so far, but it's not long before these roads again live up to their fearsome reputation. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to the second day of the Rallye de France, where the final 2 stages are about to get underway. As we saw on day 1, these second passes can be very dirty and slippery. Tony Gardemeister has defied a terrible cold to put in another strong display for Suzuki. He begins stage 11 running in 11th place. But there's a problem for the Finn here.
We don't have fuel pressure. Car is not moving at all.
The fuel pressure problem is solved mid-stage, but after rejoining behind Brice Tirabassi, they lose more time. In all, almost 5 minutes are gone, and he plummets down to 14th. PG Anderson begins stage 11 running in 10th, but could move up following his teammate's delay. Oh! It's more bad news for Suzuki. A classic Tour de Corse off. His line slightly wrong. He clips the wall on the inside and was sent careering down the bank. A disappointing end to PG's day. He's not getting out of there.
I think I just turned into the corner too early, and the sump car was touching the tarmac edge, and it just took off and hit the wall on the outside, and then the car slid off the edge on the outside. So I
think I was just cutting the corner too much.
Andreas Mikkelsen's lively afternoon is continuing. An even more destructive mistake this time, though. He loses his front bumper after that off, which eventually leads to a puncture. He is attempting to drive on the flap. You can see it's proving difficult to control the focus. Oh, and he's spun now too. A disastrous stage for the Norwegian.
Maybe 4 høyre, 5 venstre. Maybe 5 høyre. Vi gir faen, vi bytter. Jeg så feil. 40, fast 5 høyre, 40, 3 venstre minus, hold inn i veidelet. 40.
He admits defeat and is forced to stop and change the wheel. Andreas falls to 16th. The second run through the 25-kilometre Calcatoggio is steadily being littered with car parts. Henning Solberg is running down in 17th. Big clout on the inside of that corner there. And he's in trouble too. It's another puncture for Henning. No chance of improving in here. And some Scandinavians proving they still have a thing or two to learn about driving on tarmac. Up ahead, though, Petter Solberg is one of a dwindling number of drivers still involved in a realistic fight for position this afternoon. The Subaru driver has struggled to stay on terms with an increasingly determined Jari-Matti Latvala. The Finn seems to be finding more speed with every passing stage. In 11, the Stobart driver was second fastest, beaten only by the rally leader. And again on the day's final test, the Finn pulls yet further away. Jari-Matti is back to his best. Francois Duval, like his teammate, has been given free rein to keep attacking this afternoon, and they haven't disappointed. Although the Belgian is beaten by Hirvonen again in stage 11, in 12, a stunning performance finally breaks Loeb's stranglehold on stage wins. Duval claims his first fastest time of the weekend. Hirvonen, though, can take great encouragement from the fact that he's been able to hold off Duval in a straight fight on tarmac. He may not have been able to match the searing pace of the world champion, but it's a sign of how far his ability has come on asphalt that he's still ahead of a sealed surface expert of Duval's ability. Hirvonen ends the day 4.3 seconds in front of his teammate. Loeb's fans still out in force. He may have finally lost the chance to make an unprecedented clean sweep of stage wins, but it's of little consequence now. The Frenchman has had another near-perfect run today. With just the 4 stages of day 3 remaining, Sebastian's lead looks untouchable. At the end of day 2, Loeb's dominance is clear. Almost a minute ahead of Hirvonen, with Duval 4.3 seconds behind his teammate. Solberg is now 22.4 seconds behind Latvala, while Atkinson, Ava and Tirabassi round off the top 8.
Sebastian, how easy has today been?
It has been okay. Sure, no big risks, just trying to keep a good rhythm, and finally I think it was okay. No, absolutely no problems. The feeling with the car is really good.
Are you surprised you kept Francois off this afternoon?
No, I thought if everything is right, I can keep him behind. But I don't know, have we both been driving 110% all the time? So I don't think we have taken all the risks we could if we are really fighting. But driving in good speed anyway, so not really slowing down too much.
It's difficult, rally this year. Some place is wet, it's quite difficult. But I have the best time on the last. I am so confident for tomorrow because the stages is quite similar tomorrow morning. And I try to stay on the road. My position is so good. If I stay third, it's good result.
Just 1 day to go then before Loeb can close out his 4th consecutive victory on home soil, while Ford will hope their men can hold on to keep their fading championship hopes alive. Follow the news from the finale of the Tour de Corse live on WRC.com, and we'll be back with full highlights from day 3 tomorrow. For now though, from Ajaccio, it's goodbye.